All right, it's time to begin learning experience number 9, a worldview statement. And clearly, our worldview it's how we interpret our world, right? And so it affects everything that we do. And so this learning experience is an incredibly important one, and it's very related to apologetics and our ability to share our faith. So I want to spend some time just getting you oriented and ready for your master assessment. So we're going to look at the irreducible minimums of learning experience number 9, where you're creating a worldview statement. And so I love this picture, right? I mean, you've got the world on this person's face, and it's them looking through their eye as to how they see the world. And so how a person sees the world and understanding how they see the world obviously is critical to our ability to share the gospel with that person. So this learning experience is really geared towards making us more effective in our ability to do evangelism, in our ability to do discipleship, and our ability to be missionaries and to care for those who are in a different culture than our own. So let's go ahead and begin to look at this. And the first thing that you're going to do, and unfortunately, I don't know if this is available in French, but you're going to read. So there's the need to read. And in this, there's a classic book by James Sire that I know is in English, and my hope is that it's in French. If not, we'll have to find an equivalent. But the purpose of this book is to really help you to understand the importance of worldview and then to walk you through specific worldviews and what those worldviews are. And so reading and getting a sense of what other worldviews, whether it's a Buddhist worldview or an atheistic worldview or a materialistic worldview, having clarity on what these worldviews and how they understand the world will begin to help you to understand connection points to share the gospel. So the first thing you'll do is you'll need to read. There's definitely going to be books that you'll need to read to help to begin to orient you on what other worldviews encompass and what they are. Then once you've done that, you're going to want to reflect. And as you see in Proverbs 27:19, it says, "As in water a face reflects the face, so the heart of a person reflects the person." And as you spend time, and really at the heart of this worldview, you're going to find is learning to listen well. You have to learn to ask the right questions and to listen well to hear what is going on in that person's heart, to understand how they view the world, and therefore how you can approach sharing the gospel. And so a time of reflection and understanding and just really listening to a person is a really very important part of this learning experience. And then the heart of the learning experience will come here, where you're going to engage people with different worldviews. You're going to have at least 3 different worldviews of people that you're going to want to engage. We have a set series of questions, and if you just ask the questions, you want to ask those 10 questions. You want to give them an opportunity to say whatever they're going to say. It's not a time for you to argue with them or to interact in any kind of a negative way. You're simply trying to draw them out and to ask them, what do they think about these certain things, and allow them to answer. If you need clarity or if you want to clarify something, then simply say, oh, by the way, when you said this, can you help me understand what that means? The point of this time is to really have great clarity of what do they believe and how do they view the world. How do they view God? How do they view sin? How do they view what's important? What drives people? And so those are some of the questions that you're going to be going through. As you're going through those questions, you're going to want to take notes because you're going to use those notes later. Okay? And so when you're done, it should have been a very relationally healthy time in which when they leave, they feel like, wow, that was really good. I feel totally listened to. Okay. Then what you want to do is you want to take the answers that you got from those 10 questions, and you're going to begin to try to understand, based on how they view the world, then this is how I would begin to think about where we have intersections with the gospel or where I can introduce the gospel into that area. And so the importance and the relevance of the worldview and asking those 10 questions is so that you can begin to understand where that person's coming from, so you can share the gospel in such a way that you address specific issues that they have raised themselves in the answers that they gave you. So, for example, one of the things we did with our group here in Oregon is they interviewed three Mormon missionaries together. And what we learned is that they don't really have a very solid concept of sin, and that they also have a very different picture of Jesus. And so when we're thinking about sharing with them in the future, we're going to definitely want to address, the area of sin and what biblical sin is, and take them to the scriptures since they believe in the Bible in addition to three other books, and then also help them to understand the nature of Jesus, that you see Jesus as a man who then became God. We view Jesus, the Bible views Jesus as God who became incarnate, who wrapped himself in flesh and became a man so he could die, so that he could pay for our sins and then raise from the dead, so he could conquer death, and that we then could have a relationship with the living God. And so, but we want to start with where they took us by answering their questions and say, when we were together, you said, and what I understand the Bible to say is this, can you help me to reconcile that? And so this is where in your second meeting or your third or fourth, however long it takes, that's when you begin to introduce them to the gospel. And that brings up that last point, which is the need for follow-up. When you do the worldview questions, it's always with the vision that you're going to hear from them. You're then going to schedule other appointments so that you can take what they've said and introduce the gospel and hopefully see that person come to Christ. So that's what's going on with this worldview project number 7, or learning experience number 7. And our hope is that by doing this, you'll become much more effective in evangelism, and that when you are going to do your master assessment, you're going to want to be able to discuss other worldviews. And so that would be what you've learned in Sire. You want to talk about the things as you reflect on what you learned in Sire. What kind of things has that helped you to become more effective in the area of evangelism? If you can't use Sire, that you find another book that's on worldview that would be in your language, and that you would then use that, and that's what you're going to reflect on, and that's what you're going to interact with your mentor team on. And then really you're going to want to help them to understand, here are the 3 interviews I did. Here is how those were important and relevant to me in terms of my next steps. And then you're going to write up and present to your mentors, what I would do in my next appointment with them is this, or when I did a follow-up appointment with those people, based on what I learned here, this is what I did, and this is what took place. And so that is what you want to be doing during your master assessment time. Again, because of who you are, you're going to find that this learning experience will be very helpful for you with respect to how you do evangelism, learning to really be a good listener, learning to seek to really understand what they believe, and that you can articulate as well as they can what they actually believe, because that's really important. And they will feel heard, and that will pave a relational bridge for you to drive a lot of truth over. So hopefully this will be helpful, and that your master assessment will just be a really enjoyable time of you sharing what God has been doing in and through your life. Thanks.